It's the kind of tired that you wish you could explain. It's a bit hard to explain because it's not as if you're doing anything extra physically. You're going about your day to day, you're in this routine, you're not skipping a beat, literally, because you're still trying to take care of everything, but it's this tired. Well, could that tired be burnout? Or could that tired simply be that you're in the next phase of wonderful life? That 40 and over phase, perimenopausal phase. And what you used to be able to do without even a flinch is now making you tired, this unexplained tired. Well, if that is you, sis, then you want to stay tuned to this conversation with your girl, Coach Nick, on the Beautifully Well Conversations. And this conversation is going to focus on the reset. How do you hit a reset button when you're already overwhelmed? I'm sure you've thought about this, right? You would love to be able to wake up, feel good, feel refreshed, and not have to think about how important it is to go grab that cup of coffee because you need that caffeine boost. You would love to be able to wake up without the anxiety of the list of all these things you have to attempt to accomplish throughout the day. Well, let's talk about overwhelm. And I'm going to keep playing with my eye here because there's something trying to interfere with this really important conversation. But, how often do we talk about overwhelm? Because overwhelm sounds like something we can easily remedy when we just take a few things off of our list. Overwhelm is not talked about as often as it should be, especially for those of us dealing with those hormone fluctuations that take an enormous amount of our mental and emotional energy. But we need to talk about it because overwhelm is more than a word and a temporary feeling. For some, overwhelm could be a symptom of burnout. It could be that sign, the signal that the body is giving us to encourage us to do what? Slow it down, reevaluate. You know, what's so interesting about this, I'm a health coach, national board certified health coach. I know health and wellness. I know how important it is to get sleep and rest and not overload myself, right? I know all those things, but I'm a human. And if you are dealing with overwhelm, the weight of everything, believe me, I'm talking to you as if I'm looking in the mirror. So, the three things that have helped me when overwhelm has set in could help you too. And I'm going to break those three things down because, occasionally I deal with it. And that's the real talk. This menopause journey that I'm on has just, woo, it's reminding me of the need to have grace. And, we'll talk about this in one of the steps, and that is the embrace period, right? Where we stop fighting this place that we've arrived to and just accept the fact that we're here. Accept that we're here. That's part of reducing the overwhelm. Last night I had an interesting dream. I was on this boat. It was a raft, like a blow up raft that also had a balloon. We call those balloons that the big balloon you can get in, and it takes you all the way up into the sky so you can look over, really really nice scenery, like way up in the air. Somehow this balloon was attached to a raft. I'm on a raft. My hubby is on a raft, and all of a sudden there's a leak in the raft. And it's a slow leak, but we can feel that we are up in the air, and this little raft is slowly uh it's inflating, and we are gradually taking this fall. Like, it's this slow fall. You ever have one of those dreams where you feel like you're in it? Like, you feel like you are actually living this dream? Well, we are slowly falling from mid-air. Because it's a dream, we land safely on this flat raft. But you know what's interesting about this dream? As we land on the sand at that, because we're at a beach, we're clearly on vacation someplace. See, because I'm realizing I can't wait to get on vacation. So in my dream, subliminally, that's where I am. But as we land on the sand and we investigate this raft, like, what happened? Where did this hole come from? Where was the puncture? What I find near my seat is a little packet of stickers. If this is still a dream. This little packet of stickers, and on the stickers it says, apply these to the raft. And then I wake up. We didn't have to lose traction. We didn't have to end our hot air balloon ride. That's what that thing was. It was a hot air balloon, but with this raft attached, because I'm guessing that we could have been able to float in the water as well. So I wake up, and instantly, just the way my brain works, I'm always trying to figure things out. Like, what's the lesson in this? What could I pull out of this great adventure that I'm embarking on? And I am all the way in the air. I'm enjoying the scenery. I'm enjoying this ride. And then all of a sudden, I am slowly falling back to land, no longer being able to enjoy this ride, this experience, this adventure. There's a hole in this process. And it is not until I land at the bottom that I see the tool, that if I saw it, if my focus was a little different, and I just took 5 minutes to attach these stickers in the area that it said, we would still be enjoying that hot air balloon ride. I know you get the point by now. Life is an adventure. Life is a ride. It is a journey. It takes us up. It can take us down. But the beauty of this adventure, this ride of life, however you want to package this, right? Because although we're talking about overwhelm, we can equate this to wherever you are right now. Whether that hot air balloon, this journey, maybe it really is your life right now, that you want to live and enjoy it. But in the midst of it, there are a few turns, there are a few things, there are a few holes, a few snags in this journey that's leading you always right back where you started, almost like at rock bottom. Maybe the journey for you is a weight loss journey. Maybe it's a health journey, blood work, lab work, numbers. Maybe you are dealing with diabetes, high blood pressure, and those numbers are just all over the place. Cholesterol. They're talking about, seeing you in 3 months to see if you've improved, or telling you now lifestyle has to change. Now I need you. This physician is saying, I need you to do this. Whatever place you're in that journey, I want you to just reflect back on this interesting dream with the hot air balloon slowly falling to the ground, just needing to have these stickers placed in the right space that would have only taken me 5 minutes to do so. And I could still be enjoying the ride. Well, that's just life. But the beauty of it is that even when things block it, there's a roadblock, there's an obstacle, even when those things happen, there's always a way to overcome it. I took out the word fix. So often I'll say there's a way to fix it. Some things can't be fixed. And as women, especially if you are affected deeply by maybe some things out of your control, work, coworkers, supervisors, family, that I take the word fix out and I say there's some things that we can do to overcome it. 3 steps, 3 things. And the first, we have to stop. We just have to stop. Right now, if you're listening to this, you're probably doing something else, right? If you're that woman who has so many things to do that you say, you know what, I'm just going to turn on this podcast. I'm going to listen to Nick for a minute while I write out my notes, while I write out my plan for the week, or I'm going to listen to this while I clean up the house. We're always trying to figure out how to maximize time. And on one end, that's a good thing. We're industrious. We get things done. But remember, the topic of this conversation is overwhelm. That we are experiencing overwhelm because we are beyond capacity. You've already reached capacity by the time you decided to at least listen to the first few minutes of this episode. You're already there. The first out of the 3 steps I'm going to share with you that has helped me and that constantly helps me to go back and reflect when overwhelm hits and I want to hit the reset button, but to hit the reset button feels overwhelming. The first step is to stop. Pause. Give yourself some free space. And this free space is not just a quiet place to sit. The free space is mental. It's mental capacity. Stop. Sit still. Take some deep breaths. Become more mindful in the space that you're in. Pause. Turn that running to-do list off. We're not multitasking in step 1. In step 1, that stop is a hard stop. You ever had a meeting scheduled or somebody wanted to talk to you and they needed your time and you've opened up your schedule for their time, but you made it clear before that conversation started that hard stop at 11:30. And you had that hard stop at 11:30 because that next call or the next thing that you had to do, you could not be late. You needed to be on time. This is a hard stop, sis. That first step, how long is that stop? Could it be 5 minutes to put everything down, go into quiet, turn the phone off, turn the light off? Can you lay down in a bed for 5 minutes just to try to refresh? Is the stop a day to yourself? Is the stop something that you can do intentionally alone by yourself? Is the stop a break from social media so that you can stop scrolling? and using up the bandwidth that's up here, step one is to stop. We're going to stop what we're doing. If you have to pencil it on the schedule, if you have to write it down, this is the day I stop. And that stop, it's not long term. It's just we have to physically do it. We're not physically stopping, right? Even at bedtime, we are thinking about what we have to do the next day. We're remembering what we just did. We're not stopping. It's nonstop because for some of us, sleep isn't even a real pause. We're just going to sleep with the intention of laying down because we have to, only to get up because you want to check off more things off the list. So, how do you hit the reset button when you're overwhelmed? Your first tip is to stop. Give yourself that free space to pause. Now, the second one is it's an obvious one, but I'm going to take a little time to explain it a little deeper because we cannot evaluate what's causing the overwhelm. We cannot move forward until we identify why we keep doing these same things over and over and over again. Why do we feel like we have the capacity to be the caregiver, to be the supervisor at work, to be five people at work, to be the wife that we, the wife that we want to be, the mom that we want to be, the auntie that we want to be, the daughter that we want to be, that entrepreneur, that CEO? We cannot evaluate successfully what is causing the overwhelm in this pattern of this go-getter mindset and mentality that, trust me, we can still be that go-getter. We can still have this, we can still have our goals in view, but we have to move different. Trying to move the same way you did at 20 and 30, possibly even early 40s, the movement now is different. The goals don't have to change. How we achieve them should be in that smarter, not harder scenario. So when we stop, the next step is to evaluate. And it's going to take some time to evaluate this because we know that for some of our responsibilities, especially caregiving, maybe things at work can't change overnight. Maybe there are some concerns with family that are out of our control, but they affect us deeply. These things, these circumstances are not going to change overnight, but what can is how we allow ourselves to address them. What can is how we are able to give ourselves some space to breathe and think about how we're going to move forward. Evaluating also gives us a chance to identify what's in our control and what's out of our control. When we evaluate, we're also no longer basing additional assignments or additional tasks. They're no longer based on how much time is on a clock. Because that clock, the time don't lie, but your capacity is not telling the truth. So when you think there is a 2-hour window between the time you leave work to the time that you could get home, that within those 2 hours, there's room to throw something in there. There may not be room to throw something in there. But only if you've evaluated what is causing the overwhelm. If in your day, maybe it's just too packed. You're thinking, hey, 8 hours, I can give you my whole me in 8 hours. Some of us can't give the whole me in 8 hours, 10 hours, half the day, 12 hours in the day. Step two, tip two, evaluate where the overwhelm is coming from. Are there certain days that you're more overwhelmed than other days? Well, check those days. Go back to that calendar, go back to Outlook, go back to Google, go back to your smartphone, the device. Go back and look at, okay, are there certain days where the weight is larger? Are there certain days where more is required of you? And throughout that work week, those 5 days, are there days where your responsibility takes on more of an emotional toll? You won't know until you stop and evaluate. And the third, focus. Focus on what's positive. Okay, yes, you've heard this before, but this is how we're going to do it. We're focusing on the positive. When we're overwhelmed, every other sentence is but. I know, but. I wish I could, but. In overwhelm, this is where those Jedi mind tricks come in, right? The mindset thing. We go back to that word mindset. We go back to this culture of negative thinking. When we're overwhelmed, we can't help it. So this is no judgment. This is real talk. This might apply to you, it might not. I mean, you might not have an issue focusing on the positive when you're overwhelmed. And if that's the case, I want to hear how, in an overwhelmed state, you remain positive. You're able to focus on a positive. Here's why this is step three and why it's an important step, just like the previous two. When we're overwhelmed, we have the tendency to go into a place of negative. We are so overloaded and overwhelmed with things, different things, that the goal is just to get this stuff done, get these things done, get done what you can. And the response to things, how many of us are overwhelmed and in the greatest mood? I'm so overwhelmed and happy all at the same time. It's a cause for concern. And you might need to call somebody else to have that conversation. But when we're overwhelmed, we're cranky. Even if you're you're a good spirited person, overwhelm, anxiety can cause us to be cranky. Naturally, that makes sense. If we're overwhelmed, we're not getting the best sleep. We're in a hurry. Our brain, our brains are on a constant rotation, almost like the mouse. Not the mouse. What's that thing? The gerbil, the hamster on that wheel. That's what our mind is doing constantly. It's not getting a break. It's constantly running. And guess what? It's mad about it. It's cranky about it. And so when we focus on the positive, what we're doing, we're aiming to help the overwhelmed to relax. Telling yourself things, just simple phrases like, it's okay. I can get to this later. Right now, it's not a priority. That's a positive statement. And in that statement, when we say focus, focus on the positive, we have to put ourselves in the picture because so often the overwhelm is there because we are not carving out enough time for our rest to take care of our overall well-being. And when we are focused on the positive, we recognize that because all this running that we're doing, what are we accomplishing? We're getting things done while we are slowly watching ourselves, just like the hot air balloon in the raft. There are little holes in that system. And we're still in air bit, right? Some of that ride. but it's slowly winding down. It's winding down. You want to be here to be able to do all those things that you're doing. Being there for family, being that caregiver if you're the caregiver. You love your job. Maybe you do. Maybe you're close to retirement and you just got to hang on there a little bit further, right? Um, you do enjoy life. You love life. You're just bombarded with so much. You're a busy lady. There's a lot on your plate constantly, and everybody who knows you know that there's a lot on your plate. But those people who love us the most, they know there's a lot on our plate, but that does not hold them back from reaching out. Your boss may know it too if you're working. If you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or you're running that business, there is we already know the grind and the hustle. But in our age, we have to figure out how to get to a place where we are working smarter, not harder, because we want to be here. Our health is compromised when we're overwhelmed. Stress is a mess. The thought of continuing in a state of overwhelm is not only hurting us mentally, but our bodies are taking a toll. And you already know that it is because the symptoms are there. You're already feeling it. So, in this conversation, it's the hope that you've been able to walk away feeling heard because we're all going through some level of overwhelm. It's the last day of 2024 as I record this. In less than, I mean, tomorrow is 2025. And if you are still feeling the pull of overwhelm, that says a number of things. One, you still have not been able to take out enough time for yourself to reset before going into 2025. And you got goals, you got things you want to accomplish, and yet you are still feeling the sensations of overwhelm. How will what you do next look different? Instead of going through the ins and outs of you know overwhelm, allowing overwhelm to reach the point of burnout, because we can prevent burnout. Yeah, we're busy people, we're humans, and our lives and circumstances change on a regular basis, and our mood can change and fluctuate. What I want to do today, I don't want to do tomorrow. Actually, what I wanted to do 5 minutes ago, I don't want to do now. That's the story of my life. It could be the story of yours as well. But let's face it, when we are no longer in control of how stress is affecting us, because that is a part of that overwhelm, when we control that, we are controlling our health. You are truly in charge of you. Your life is no longer running you. You are in control. You are controlling what you can control. And you're hitting that reset button when you feel overwhelmed with those 3 steps we just talked about. We're going to stop. We're going to pause. We're not multitasking. We're going to honor ourselves with some space physically, mentally, emotionally. We want to think so that we can step 2, evaluate what's causing the overwhelm. What can I take off the list? What do I need to delegate to somebody else? What do I no longer need to do? We're going to evaluate our days of the week. Are there days where I'm more overwhelmed, or are there days where I'm more sure and confident? What are those days? And let me work on what I can control to help reduce the overwhelm. And that third step is the focus on the positive. We're going to take those thoughts and find some room to become a lot more positive about how we think about ourselves, our abilities, and we're going to focus on a positive so that when you say no or you don't have the capacity, you can feel good instead of guilt. So, I'm your girl, Coach Nick, National Board Certified Health Coach. You've tuned into another beautifully well conversation, and it is the hope that you are more confident, excited, and you are ready to reduce overwhelm and hit that reset button for 2025.